here. I am here to talk about the project for 684 and the lessons that I learned in this project. First of all, I just want to say this project was so much fun to create. It just so happened to align perfectly with a project that I was working on for my day job. And I felt like I had the full ID experience of working with a team, interviewing SMEs, and iterating my design. So it was a really cool learning experience. I feel super fortunate that I was able to use a work project for this as well, because that meant I could utilize working hours for this project. And I think this is huge because this project had a pretty big scope to it. So I feel lucky that I was able to devote time during my workday to it. Otherwise, I think I might have felt a little overwhelmed trying to get the whole thing done on evenings and weekends with everything else going on. But overall, it was a good experience. So, on to the lessons I learned. There are 3 of them. The first one, lesson number 1. Just when you think you've got a handle on things, you're going to discover 25 more aspects that need to be addressed. Every time I would feel how proud of how much I had accomplished, whether it was just designing the imagery or meeting with SMEs for content or working on content development, I'd sit back and think, oh my God, this is not so bad. I've got tons of time. And then I'd sit down and start to build, and I'd realize that I was missing like 17 steps to get from the learning objectives to the assessment, or that the color scheme wasn't quite right and I needed to go through and change every graphic, or that the font that I had chosen didn't seem the same in every browser. Then I would feel super overwhelmed for a day or so and head back to the drawing board. Number 2 lesson learned. Working collaboratively produces a richer, higher quality of work. It's true what they say that 2 heads are better than 1. I'm quite an independent worker and I just like to get things done. However, both with the teaching week and this final project, I worked in deep collaboration with colleagues. Being able to bounce ideas off each other and pivot based on conversations were both important skills that I learned in this course. Not to mention the amplified feeling of pride that we shared when we shared it as a group. When I presented this to my work colleagues, their excitement got me excited, and it was a really positive experience. Lesson number 3, simplicity is key. As IDs, we have access to so much cool technology, and it's easy to get carried away and want to build the next best thing in online learning. Having to scale back my ideas to accommodate different devices, different abilities, different motivations, all of this was a huge learning curve. In the end, I found the simpler that I kept the structure, the quicker I was able to add content, and more importantly, the quicker I was able to go in and edit things as we made changes going along. I found it really useful to keep a printed, I know, Gen Xer here, copy of the learning objectives next to me. So as I was building content, I found this kept me focused on my end goals, as well as ensuring that my quiz questions were properly aligned to my learning objectives. So that was an important one. Now, on to my projects. My remit came to me from the library and English department at my college, and they wanted to build a standalone plagiarism prevention course that could be shared across all faculty. They did not want it specifically focused on English curriculum, which meant I had to keep many parts quite general. They had created a few training videos and a brief outline of topics to be covered. So my process was to start with the imagery. I don't really have a reason as to why, but that's where I started. I'm not terribly creative at creating images, so I leaned on Adobe Stock to find some imagery that I liked. I drafted up some banners based on some buttons that I found. So here's my original look for this site. I really thought the colors felt fresh and fun and light-hearted. I found the buttons from Adobe, and then I made the matching banners to go along. Let me just show you a couple. So then here's a couple infographics that I made using this color scheme, and then these would be the buttons, the way that they looked originally. So just so you can see an idea. And notice also that we had 9 modules. That's going to come up in a later moment. I thought for comparison I would use our college colors as just to see. And so I altered it to our college blue and green, and then used some of the others. Originally, this was supposed to be yellow, but the director of the library didn't like it, so she chose gray. And she's too fierce to me to try and explain contrast to, so I just fell in line and used gray. This turned out to be the approved color scheme that I was going to use. And so this is what the infographics look like in the approved color scheme and the final buttons that I built. It was a whole procedure to go and change all those colors. And of course they don't line up here, but the final versions do. I made sure that they lined up properly. So now that I had banners and icons, I was ready to dive into content. They had originally thought of creating 10 individual modules. This is the information that we started with, each diving into anti-plagiarism content. I felt this looked too overwhelming, first of all, and secondly, some of the modules were quite light on content and others were heavier. So I proposed we combine modules, and we ended up with 6. So I'll just show you what that looks like in the actual course, which is here. And it feels a lot more manageable with just 6. Also, the weight of the content is more evenly distributed, and students would be able to spend about the same amount of time in each module. So, on to building actual content. I coordinated with the English department to build out content, and I utilized their rubrics. Part of the remit for this project was that it could be used as a standalone self-grading course, or it could be incorporated into another course. So therefore, I had to create both self-grading assessments as well as instructor-graded assessments. So on the assessments page, you can see that there are plenty of online quizzes. This little icon tells us that, as well as just regular assignments. And that gives instructors the ultimate flexibility on how they want to assess this content. I started out by building these online quizzes and quickly found that they were pretty boring. An example is this understanding plagiarism, this first quiz. And if we take a look at it, you can see that it is just multiple choice questions and true and false, or a multiple answer question, and they're boring. So in order to keep the content fresh and exciting, I also built in video quizzes and drag and drops. So an example of the video quiz is here. And in this video, the questions are built in. So as someone's watching the video, the questions come up. Once the assessments were built, I went back through each module and just to make sure that the instructions were clear and easy to follow. So if we can get back to modules here, we have our student resources module to help students get started, how to find help, how to contact me, Canvas technical requirements. And then we have each module here. I opted to build the learning objectives into regular sentences as opposed to a bulleted list. I felt that that was much more approachable and friendly, so that was a design choice that I made. But as we can see, each module starts out with, in this module, we will define plagiarism and give examples of things that you might not think are plagiarism. Ooh, there's a typo. And each module has videos and text to support it. All the videos are captioned for accessibility. And as the student progresses through the module, they pick up the information that they're going to need for the assessment at the end. Here's the first infographic that I created just to make a very clear visual image on what they need to take away from this section. And then the quiz. This first module doesn't have an instructor-graded assignment because it really is just checking, did you pay attention to what you were reading? Here is a discussion post so that students can reflect a little bit deeper on some of the concepts. Comes up in plagiarism is that different cultures have different takes on what is considered plagiarism, so here's a chance for students to discuss that. Then module 2, in this module we'll look at some ways to go ahead to find if you're stressed. Again, we have videos and text to carry through the content. And there is Are you a procrastinator quiz, and then a survey on how you respond to procrastination. And finally, the assignment here is just to set something up in Microsoft Planner. And all students have to do is upload an image. So it's just really checking if they have gone through the content successfully and completed the learning objective. And here is the discussion post, a chance for them to reflect on whether or not they are procrastinators and things that they can do to help each other out to brainstorm ideas to avoid procrastination. We move into Module 3. And again, in this module, we're going to explore how to get started in research, videos and text to support, and then here's where the video quizzes are. So here's the first one on basic research, and then the second one on keywords. Just thought it was a different way to change things up. And then as we get through to the very end, this is the first instructor graded assignment. So this would only be given if the instructor chooses to use it. And the purpose of it is to start to apply all that beginning research information to starting a new project. The discussion board for Module 4 is a chance for them to create an in-class bibliography of sources. I think this is a collaboration that's very helpful, particularly if everyone's working on a similar topic. And this would be a chance for them to add their sources. Next section, we talk about paraphrasing. There's the video and text to support it. I had a chance to use Articulate to build out the learning area. And at the end, I did a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more like a game. So let's just see. Okay. Fun music, and then you get the immediate feedback. Are you correct or incorrect? On if you can understand what paraphrasing is. Then we move into citations. Here's an infographic talking about citations and 5 reasons to cite. The learning material in video and text again. And this one is also an Articulate that I built it was fun. I did use a template from eLearning Heroes for this, which is why it's so much cooler than the stuff that I built from scratch. But it's pretty fun. So as you click through each of these, you get what is a citation, why do I need to use citations, when should I cite, and what information do I need. So it's just kind of a fun, interactive, with all the information that you need about citing sources. And just to reinforce that, here are links out to various sources such as Purdue OWL and our own citation guide for both MLA and APA. And then we see the first assignment to create the paraphrase and in-text citation from sources that they had already found. So that project is growing. It's more of an authentic assessment. I did build just a very quick quiz for those who prefer to have it self-graded as opposed to instructor graded. This has the multiple answer questions. Then finally, we move into Module 6, putting everything together, and synthesis. We talk about how to synthesize the information. I created another Articulate training on this. Again, it's mine, so it's not great.
Synthesis refers to the manner in which.
And then there's a quiz. Again, similar setup to the one before. Is it synthesized or not synthesized? And then, of course, you get the answer at the end. Here is a glossary I made into an infographic. I like this because I created this white trail of circles to elaborate the writing process. And then finally, there's a resources PDF that can be downloaded, and it has live links in it to lead to additional information. So that's about it. That's my plagiarism module. I hope you enjoy it, and I am grateful for the opportunity to share it with you.